AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 3, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You sir. And Mr. Toby Tom Blake. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. 5 o'clock, quitting time. Glad you are driving home with us. Fletcher Mackel, WDSU, will be here in about 13 minutes from right now. NFL schedule leaks are going on. The full schedule releases tonight at 7 p.m., so 2 hours from right now, they'll have the full schedule release. As of this very moment, the up-to-date schedule leaks that are out there that we know of. I'll run through this very quickly. By the way, it's at LouisianaSports.net. It's right at the top of the homepage. The schedule leak tracker. If you want to go give it a look, it's all there for free. So a few things that have filled out here now. I mean, it's almost the entire schedule. At Detroit, week 1. At Baltimore, week 2. Home opener, week 3 against the Raiders. Then you're home against the Falcons in week 4. Then home against Minnesota in week 5. So back-to-back-to-back home games. Week 6, you're at the Giants. That makes sense because you'd be playing an East Coast game in New York. And from there, most likely, you would just fly from New York to Paris for your week 7 game against the Steelers. Weeks 8 and 9 have not yet been disclosed. It could certainly mean that the Saints will take their bye on week 8 when they get home from Paris. We don't know week 9 yet. Week 10 would be home against Carolina, at Chicago, at Cincinnati, weeks 11 and 12. That's relevant because we're looking at some of those outdoor cold weather potential cold weather games at Chicago in week 11, which would be November the 22nd, and then at Cincinnati a week later on November 29th. Not a total break, but catching them in November is better than catching them in December or early January. So at Chicago, at Cincinnati, 11 and 12. Not sure about week 13 yet. Week 14 is at Carolina. Week 15, we're not sure yet. And then week 16, home against the Cardinals. Week 17 is not determined. And then week 18 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but not yet determined or stated via that report if it would be home or away. So, but one of the games there against Tampa looks like week 18. So, if you missed all that or I went quickly, you just go to LouisianaSports.net. It's free. It's on the front of the homepage if you want to catch it right there with the leaks as we know right now. Tomorrow, on Friday, when the schedule's official, we're back here on air. We'll run through the entirety of it coming up tomorrow on the show, so we'll look forward to that. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. Graduation's tomorrow as well, so congrats to all the grads. Remember, if you're looking for a great gift for the grad in your life, you can always get by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. 9 locations, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, and online at lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, maybe some timeless pearls, a beautiful watch, tons of great gifts. Maybe you're not celebrating a graduate. Maybe you're thinking of popping the question. Lee Michaels has helped Louisianians get engaged for 40 years. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. LSU baseball, we are an hour and a half away from first pitch with the Tigers and the Gators. We still do not know as of yet who the starting pitcher will be for LSU. Hopefully, the lineup's posted before we're off air. I'm not sure that's going to happen with the 6:30 first pitch, but if we do find out who the starting pitcher will be, we'll talk about it. Jay did say Kason Evans is going to throw this weekend at some point. We don't know where or in what capacity. The other thing that Jay was asked about was about, I thought was interesting, was Chris Stanfield and the possibility of Stanfield returning this weekend for his final weekend at Alex Box Stadium.
I don't think he's 100% at all. I think it's a credit to him, his toughness, how important this is to him to try to finish it out right, to want to get on the field. And I mean, he was extremely sore Sunday after 2 at-bats on Saturday. And you see him between innings, like trying to move in the outfield to make sure he was in the best position he could be to make a play. So credit to him for trying to tough through it, but he's not 100%.
Yeah. So may not see Chris Stanfield this weekend. Hopefully, at some point, he'll get one more at bat, get a proper ovation from the crowd at Alex Box Stadium. But remains to be seen if that'll be able to happen. So if that lineup is posted before we get off air here, we'll run through it as it looks for Game 1 with the Tigers and the Gators. But Jay effectively, whenever he released the pitching rotation for the weekend, he's effectively telling you there's no real path for them to earn an at-large. They got to go win the SEC tournament next week. They'll have to win 5 games in 6 days, and the best opportunity to do that is have William Schmidt going for you on Tuesday in what would likely be an 11-14 matchup. That would, as it stands now, that would be Tennessee against LSU on Tuesday. So that's really what they're playing for. And Florida, meanwhile, is trying to secure lock up their host site and potentially a top 8 national seed. If Florida sweeps LSU, that would put them at 8. They're at 15 wins right now. They put them at they're 15-12. They'd put them at 18-12. 18 is far from a lock for a national seed, but they could get there if some other things fall their way. So a few things worth keeping an eye on this weekend with the Tigers and the Gators out at Alex Box Stadium. The biggest story of the day, if you're just joining us, you haven't heard, we opened the show with it earlier today. Verge Ausberry, and I did text Verge just to clarify. Verge Ausberry made some comments on an interview with USA Today with Blake Topmeyer, effectively defending Lane Kiffin and in so doing, taking very direct, obvious shots at Brian Kelly, not in any way subtle. And I texted Verge just to clarify that the interview he did with Blake Topmeyer was after the Lane Kiffin Vanity Fair piece dropped. Because remember, we had Wilson Alexander here with us a couple days ago. And Wilson's feature dropped on Tuesday. The Vanity Fair piece dropped Monday. Wilson's feature dropped Tuesday. And Wilson spoke to Lane Kiffin on last week, like last Thursday. So he had already done the feature and the sit-down with Kiffin before the Vanity Fair piece ever dropped. He clarified he later went back and asked Kiffin, hey, do you want to comment on the controversy about the segregation comment in the Vanity Fair? And so that's how that quote got added. So anyway, I was just making sure with the context of what Verge said that his comments were in response to the Lane Kiffin Vanity Fair piece, and they were. He did clarify that it was after. My point will continue to be, and I gave a long thesis on this to start the show. You can catch that on demand if you want to hear it all. Effectively, my point is a lot of what Verge said is true. You can find boosters and people that worked at LSU football and players and former players that did not like Brian Kelly. That's true. So, too, is it true that you can find former players and boosters and people that work at LSU that did like Brian Kelly a lot. So, both things can be true. You don't have to criticize Kelly to defend Kiffin. The merits of hiring Kiffin stand on their own. And LSU's going to line up behind their guy. And they're going to have to go win games because that's ultimately why Brian Kelly isn't the coach. Not because he wasn't liked by fans or boosters. Or like Brian Kelly's not the coach because they didn't win enough. And that's what Lane Kiffin's going to have to do differently. All right, it's after further review. Remember, you can always get involved in the show. Email us, tweet us, text us, 225 396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. You can text our station line as well, 499-1045. And if you text the letters LSN, as in LouisianaSports.net, LSN, text LSN to 225-499-1045, you'll opt in to get our text updates when we have breaking news. So if there's ever breaking news, we're not spamming you like if there's breaking news, we'll send you a text with the breaking news link. So text LSN to 225-499-1045, 499-1045. All right, Fletcher Mackel from WDSU will join us next, talk about the Saints schedule leaks. Stick around.
After further review.
Get Gordon. Get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. You know what to do. Do what injured people in our state have done for more than 30 years. Get Gordon and get it done. You can always start at the website, getgordon.com, getgordon.com. Hey, remember the Gordon Gives laptop giveaway, the Gordon's Grads laptop giveaway? They already ran that promotion. Can't wait to share the winners with you here soon, with graduation being this weekend for so many, for LSU, for so many high schools. But bottom line is Gordon loves to give back. If it's the bike giveaway during Christmas, the laptop giveaway during graduation season, if it's the many ways that he supports college athletes through his NIL deals with the G team, so many ways. I mean, I tell you, Drew plays Miracle League. You go out to Miracle League, there's a Gordon McKernan Injury Attorney sign on the outfield fence at Miracle League. You know, MC the Down Syndrome Awareness Group Buddy Walk. Gordon always has a tent and a booth over there. Amazing philanthropy in the ways that Gordon gives back to the communities he serves. You've been injured, you need help, you know what to do. GetGordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalVR.com.
If you're scoring at home, it looks like 11 of the Saints' 17 games, 18 weeks, have been leaked so far, including week 1 at Detroit against the Lions. Fletcher Mackel, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Rap a little bit about it. Yo, dude, how are you?
Matt, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Where does the schedule release fall on your things I give a damn about list?
It's moved up. You know, it's funny. I was having this conversation. I am now in my 24th year here at WDSU in New Orleans. I remember covering the draft when it started at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. It is now a primetime must-see event.
Yep.
I remember the schedule release where it was, hey, is that happening today? And now it's social media leaks nonstop. So it's something I'm interested in and have become more interested in just because I think we all want to know, are they playing cold weather games? What's the first home game? What are marquee matchups? So I like the schedule, and I'm liking it more and more. But this year, I have to admit, I'm sure we'll get into it. In my opinion, the NFL, you know, did the Saints in the people of Southeast Louisiana a massive disservice.
The Paris game?
No, believe it or not, no. I'm excited about the Paris game.
Okay.
And I understand that the Steelers not coming to New Orleans is something that affects the economy because the Steelers travel big, and that would be great for our restaurants and bars and tourism. You mentioned the leak. What we know right now, there will be no Falcons at Saints in week 3, which will be the 20th anniversary of the Dome coming, which was a seminal moment, not only in sports history here, but in the history of our city, the reopening of the Superdome following Hurricane Katrina, Green Day and U2, the Gleason Block. There's a statue that says rebirth, for God's sake, and the NFL didn't put the Falcons here on the 20th anniversary when they could have done nothing but celebrate the Saints' history in an amazing, great moment. And so to me, I just feel like that's a massive fail on the schedule maker's part.
The league, for what it's worth, has the Saints hosting the Falcons a week later in week 4. I don't know, Fletch, I'm curious your thoughts. To me, I think that's just an enormous moment here. I wonder how much that's nationally people would be aware of the Dome coming anniversary, or I hate to, not to be blunt, but outside of here where it means so much to us. I mean, I have a panoramic shot of the Dome coming in, like above the door in my office. But like, how many people outside of here think that's a big deal?
No, let me say this. And look, I agree. I understand that I am speaking from a passionate, born and raised New Orleanian who covered Katrina and lived Katrina and did 7 hours of coverage the day the game opened. And it was this massive relief valve for everybody in our community. And like you said, it still means something to you. I understand. I am looking at it on planet New Orleans. The 10,000-foot view is people may not even recognize it anymore because we're 20 years past it. But I think that is one of the important things that a league should represent and say, look, this was an important moment for an important franchise that's been a part of our league since the 1960s. And this is a chance for us to celebrate something good, that the NFL having a huge hand in helping this city. It was an opportunity, even if it's a regional deal or we're 2 decades past it, for them to pat themselves on the back. Celebrate Paul Tagliabue, celebrate Goodell, who was the number 2, who was instrumental in helping get this team back here. They could have just patted themselves on the back for being champions of a city when we were down and out. So, again, I understand that it's a very local type of moment, but it's something that could be celebrated. And look, maybe they do it in week 4, but the fact that they're not doing it on the actual anniversary, they could have played a Thursday night game the day before the anniversary. They could have played a Monday night game around it. And the fact that they've got the Raiders on a Sunday, basically on that anniversary weekend, I just feel like it's a miss. But I understand. I am, a biased New Orleanian who thinks they made a mistake. And sometimes it's easy to hate on the NFL given the history with the Saints and how things have unfolded here.
True. It'll be interesting too, Fletcher, because it would have been easy to put that game in week 3, even without making it a primetime event. But I guess you could have done both. So I'll be curious to see what games are in primetime in that week 3, notably on Monday Night Football. As that game was played obviously in 2006 on Monday Night Football. We talked about, so you like Paris. Are you assuming that they're going to take the bye in week 8, the week after they play the Steelers in Paris?
100%. Yes, 100%. I would absolutely expect them to take the bye. They've been overseas 3 times, 08, 17, and 22. All those games were in London. And every time they did that, well, I shouldn't say that, not every time. 2 of the 3 times they did it, they took the bye. In 08, they played the Chargers. They took the bye. In 17, their game in London was like in week 4. It was the first game. And so Sean Payton asked to not have the bye that early in the season because they were going to London in week 4, and he wanted a bye later in the season. But then in 22, when they played the Vikings, they took the bye. So, look, they're playing in New York before they go to Paris. So it's New York, Paris. They're definitely going to get the bye coming back from Paris.
You assume that they'll just, I would assume, Fletch, they'll leave straight from New York and go straight to Paris. Don't come home.
100%. Yeah, look, the last 3 times, it's funny, the last 3 times they played overseas, like I just mentioned, 08, 17, and 22, all 3 of those games the previous week were actually in Carolina. So all 3 times they went from Carolina straight to London, took the overnight flight Sunday, got there with the time change early Monday morning, spent all week overseas. So, yes, they'll play Sunday in New York, and they'll get on an overnight flight and be in Paris early Monday morning with the time change.
That makes sense. Fletcher Mackel's with us, WDSU, at Fletcher WDSU, if you want to give him a follow. Based on what's been leaked so far, what else stands out to you?
I mean, I think it's a tough start. I mean, at Detroit, they're going to be on a revenge tour to show that 15 wins 2 years ago wasn't a fluke. That's a tough place to play. That is a really good team. And even if they're not going to be one of the best teams in the NFC, that's a veteran team that's still a playoff team, in my opinion, with a coach who's going to be fired up and gets after it in a stadium that is raucous. And then you go to Baltimore in week 2. And look, again, I understand Baltimore took a step back last year, but with Jesse Minter, a new coach, you still have Lamar Jackson, who's an MVP in this league. That's a tough 2 weeks to open up on the road before you come home for that week 3 game against what is more than likely a rebuilding Vegas team with a new coach and probably a young quarterback.
Yeah, do you think we'll see Cousins? Because is it Mendoza or Cousins in week 3?
That's a great question. Sharif and I, my colleague Sharif Ishak, who obviously you know very well and from Baton Rouge days there, we were just debating that. Is it Kirk Cousins? Is it Mendoza? who knows? I mean, I don't know what Kubiak's commitment to the veterans is going to be, or is it just going to be to Mendoza and Cousins is going to be a backup? They signed Kirk Cousins. They have Mendoza. I really don't know what his philosophy is going to be on how soon he wants to see the number one pick in the 2026 draft out there. I hope it's sooner. I'd much rather see Fernando Mendoza just from a fan perspective and a coverage perspective, because I think that's a better storyline than kind of tired old Kirk Cousins again.
Tired old Kirk Cousins who beat the Saints last year.
It looked like an all-pro doing it.
Anything else that you're curious about or hoping to see with the remainder of the games we don't know yet that are going to pop up here in about an hour and a half?
I'll say this. There's two games that jumped out to me, and I thought, man, oh, man, that right now as we get ready to start the season, look, injuries affect teams. Some teams rise, some teams fall. That's the great thing about the NFL. There's more parity. Truly, all 32 teams have a chance every single year. Looking at the schedule right now, there's a 2-week stretch that jumps out to me. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving and the Sunday after Thanksgiving. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, the Saints are in Chicago against Dennis Allen's defense, Caleb Williams at quarterback, Ben Johnson's offense, and then they go to Cincinnati. And look, as long as Burrow's healthy, Cincinnati's a Super Bowl contender. That's a buzzsaw 2 weeks looking at it right now. Outdoors, cold weather games in November potentially against two really good teams. That is a tough 2-week stretch.
Right there, week 11, week 12, there at the end of November. Those will be a couple of potential cold weather games. But I guess, Fletcher, you'd rather have those late November than late December or January. So not the shortest straw, but certainly not the best draw you could have there as well. We'll know it all coming up here at 7 o'clock tonight when the full schedule is released. Still about 7. We got 11, so it's six more playing dates we're waiting to see. Then obviously the bye, which we're assuming is going to happen on week 8. Fletcher Mackel, WDSU, at Fletcher, WDSU, if you want to give him a follow. Send our warmest regards to Sharif, please.
I will. He's happy as always because he's always happy, and I appreciate you letting me rant for a few minutes here.
It's our pleasure. Thanks, man. We'll see you. That's Fletcher Mackel. It's after further review. We're brought to you by Supper Club. Oh, by the way, I was driving in today. Chef Layton called me. So graduation's this weekend, and they are booked solid from 5 o'clock on. He told me they actually had someone who called and was like, "What's the latest reservation?" He's like, "We couldn't get you in here till midnight." They're like, "Perfect, we'll take it." It's like, no, we're not seating people at midnight and keeping our staff here till 3 a.m. So they are booked solid Friday, Saturday because of graduation. However, they are going to open up. They just made this decision because they are booked solid. They're going to open Friday and Saturday at 3 o'clock instead of at 5. So if you want to get in early, have an early seating, an early dinner before the ceremony, or if the ceremony is early in the day, you're going to have a late lunch at 3 o'clock. They are taking reservations. You can go to Open Table and get your reservations. You'll see it at Open Table for Supper Club for just 2 days, just Friday, Saturday. That's just because of graduation, and they are booked solid 5 p.m. on. So you're not getting in this weekend unless if you're interested Friday or Saturday with a 3 o'clock, but between 3 and 5 in that 2-hour window. You can get in between 3 and 5. Now, I tell you all the time, there's open seating at the bar. So you can always try to pop in and grab a couple of bar stools, grab a bar table, maybe get lucky. But look, Supper Club's awesome. I tell you all the time, it's the best place to celebrate anything or just because. I was there on Tuesday night, had dinner with some clients, had an awesome time, tried the Australian Wagyu. The Kobe beef is gone. I told you that wasn't going to last but 2 weeks. It's gone. So, but chefs always bringing in interesting new cuts. The Sagrera cuts are always great. It's just an awesome dining experience. So get on by, try Supper Club. If you haven't been yet, if you haven't been in a while, get back in there. If you're a regular, you already know the drill. But supperclubbtr.com. Again, this Friday, Saturday for graduation, so tomorrow and Saturday, they're opening up at 3 o'clock for just those 2 days, so they will have seating between 3 and 5. If you want an early dinner or a late lunch, you could do it at Supper Club to celebrate graduation this weekend only, but they've opened seating from 3 to 5 for this weekend only. Okay, it's after further review. We're going to knock out a quick break, come back. We'll waiting to see if LSU is going to drop the line. Probably refresh it. Hopefully they do. I'm not holding my breath because we're an hour away from first pitch. But if we do see the line before we get out of here, we'll certainly pass it along to you. So we'll knock out a quick break. Quick thought on the LSU Florida series. Now we'll update. I told you yesterday that they've planned that basketball fundraiser. Speaking of Supper Club, the fundraiser with Will Wade. I do have an update on that and how it's gone so far, the response to it. So I'll give you that when we come back. Stay here. It's AFR.
After further review.
You know, customer service in 2026 in a lot of industries feels like a lost art. You know what I'm talking about. We don't have to go deep into examples. But when it comes to buying or selling your home and working with a realtor, when you call Darren James, you will never have to worry about it. Darren has made it his mission to provide unbelievable customer service experience to his clients. He often says that he wants to create such a seamless process that he puts himself out of business, where people wouldn't even need realtors anymore. And when that's your guiding principle, you can't help but succeed when you're always thinking client first. That's Darren James. It's sincere, and you'll get it from the first conversation you have with Darren James. I give you his cell number every day. Call him or text him. 225-335-7666, 335-7666, 335-7666, or agent225.com for Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
Spring is here, and that means it's time for a little cha-ching. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust are giving you the chance to win $5,000 cash with the Spring Cha-Ching Sweepstakes. Head over to 1045ESPN.com and get registered today for your chance to win the $5K. It's quick, it's easy, and someone is going to walk away with some serious spring spending money. The Spring Cha-Ching Sweepstakes, presented by Citizens Bank and Trust and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Told you yesterday that there's a fundraiser for the LSU basketball program and their NIL initiative. It's a night with Will Wade at Supper Club on June 22nd. And it's $3,500 per ticket, $5,000 per ticket for the VIP, which starts a half an hour earlier. A little cocktail hour with Will exclusive. So they're going to sell, I guess I could say this is fine. There's only 40 VIPs that they're going to sell. And I think there's 104 general tickets that they'll sell. So it's going to be a small, intimate gathering, right? But just when you do the math on those numbers, it's going to be roughly $500,000 that they make on the ticket sales. And then obviously, while you're there, people want to pledge more, give more, raise more. They're hoping to raise a lot more. But it was interesting. I mentioned this yesterday. I told you I thought it was a really good idea because the thing that at times I hesitate because it might be a poor word choice, but I could say that LSU maybe has done a poor job or struggled with, I think, is engaging that mid-tier donor, whereas we know who the very prominent, generous, like seven-figure donors have been, from Todd Graves and Gordon McKernan and Pepper Rutland at MMR and obviously Our Lady of the Lake and they're the Spates. I don't want to start listening because I'm going to leave people off. But there's an entire tier of donors that could give $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 that I think at times maybe LSU could do a better job engaging. And sometimes with a fundraiser, when you have a specific ask, it's easier to make that money. For example, we talked earlier in the show about Brian Kelly last year with the $1 million match. Brian Kelly put up $1 million. He wanted people to donate to match the $1 million. They ended up raising $3.2 million with that specific initiative. Well, this is an opportunity where certainly it's exclusive. Not everybody can afford $3,500 for a ticket. That's understandable. But are there 100 people that can do that? Absolutely. So engaging those people who have the means, are willing to support the program and do so in a manner that can help supplement in addition to rev share and some of your very generous high-level donors. Like, those are the things when you can create good opportunities for people like this that you need to do. And I did have a conversation. Let me text this person real quick, see if I can say their name. I don't know if the person who I chatted last night with the person. Okay, he's listening. So Charles Harvey organized this, and he's obviously a very generous LSU benefactor, and has been very generous to the basketball program. I mean, the Will Wade flight to go pick him up from NC State and back and on the tarmac and whatever. Anyway, so Charles Harvey's the one that organized this. And Charles and I spoke last evening after I talked about this on the air. He reached out. And before LSU even went public with this, and he's the one who asked LSU, can we do it? They said yes. So they organized the whole thing at Supper Club and all. He said basically just as sort of like a pre-sale, just texting and letting people know what they were organizing, they sold about a third of the seats before they even made it public, which tells you, yes, there's a large interest in doing something like this. It will absolutely sell out with ease. If before you've even made people publicly aware of it, just a very loose via text message, hey, would you be interested in this? They sold a third of the seats. Yes, obviously it'll sell out. It'll be great because we see what Will Wade's doing right now with a lot of the reported commitments from international basketball players. And, I don't know yet what that's going to cost. And there's been a reported $12 to $15 million for the roster. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, conversations I've had on the record and off the record, when Will Wade was negotiating his return to LSU, they did not discuss I shouldn't say discuss. They did not guarantee a roster budget. LSU didn't say this will be your roster number, and Will didn't give them a number. Because, quite honestly, if you put a number on something, now you're capping yourself. And what if you go over? So I think they have an idea of what they want to spend on this roster. But if you have the opportunity to be competitive and get really good players internationally, we've talked a lot about Alan Graves, right, who, again, in an interview sort of reiterated he'd like to be a first-round pick and go to the NBA. But he's also in the portal, and if that doesn't work out, he'll go to Duke or LSU. And I think LSU would be really, really competitive there. Because financially, I've been told LSU will match whatever Duke will pay him. Then it's a matter of, do you want to go compete to win a championship at Duke and play a season at Duke, or do you want to play in your home state, close to home, where your family can see you play every day and all that sort of stuff? Again, that's a decision that has to be made. All that to say, this is a really smart idea. And it's exactly the type of thing that LSU needs to do more of. And it's also an illustration of sport-specific events to fundraise for those sports. And, like when LSU baseball, for example, went and played the fall game in Biloxi, that effectively acted as an NIL, quote-unquote, fundraiser for LSU baseball. So I think it's important for every sport, for Jay Clark in gymnastics, Will, Jay Johnson, everybody. Kim Mulkey has to go, pound the pavement and fundraise for her program. To be able to do things like this that are creative ways to engage new donors that can help supplement, because those same 5 or 6 people at the top aren't going to be able to do that. That's the big concern, right? Those same handful of people that have been so generous to this point aren't going to be able to do that every single year, rinse and repeat. They're going to be tapped out. So engaging maybe some new high-level donors who have been on the sideline, and then mobilizing that tier of donor as well, I think is just critical in this era. And the other thing that will be a fascinating watch, and file this away because it's not going to happen right now, but what happens in the football portal cycle in January is going to be fascinating because, like, we know with what LSU, I've explained this to you, with how they spent to build this football roster and effectively combining 2 cycles of rev share and their donor dollars. You're going to have to rely heavily on your donor dollars for the January portal cycle before rev share resets in June of 27. So, or maybe it's July of 27, but next summer of 27. So you're going to have to pass the hat in a big way come January. It's much easier to do if football is coming off a really great season, right? A CFP appearance, whatever it may be, championship caliber season. You go spend $40+ million on the roster and you go 8-4, much harder to pass that hat in January. And then how does that residual effect happen? So all that to say, I'm very glad to see LSU do this. Glad to see the response has been what it has been so far. So hat tip to Charles Harvey. What a great idea, and they're executing it and going very well as they're fundraising for Will Wade's basketball program to build this roster. Hopefully get the Tigers back in the NCAA tournament next March. All right, it's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. Thursday shows are brought to you by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Tell you about Blasia and her awesome team every single Thursday that we're here. My own personal experiences, I mean, they've been awesome. Erica's been sick a few times. They're coming home. They've given her IVs. They came in home at 9 o'clock at night to do a blood draw for Drew, so we didn't have to take him to a doctor's office and do his blood labs there. It's a very, very difficult thing for a special needs child with a lot of sensory issues. Maybe it's hospice care, end of life care. Maybe it's post-operative, carry out the doctor's orders in home. You know, their nurses can be with you in the recovery room post-op to get your doctor's orders so they can help carry those out. Whatever it may be, it's not just healthcare, it's healthcare for your lifestyle. It's decisioncriticalbr.com, decisioncriticalbr.com. Schedule that discovery call today, decisioncriticalbr.com. All right, y'all, it's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. We'll knock out our final break of the show. Jimmy will be here for Otterlocks, LSU, and Florida. We are 45 minutes away from first pitch out of the box, game 1 of that series. Still waiting for that lineup to be posted. When it is, we'll certainly pass it along to you if it is before we get out of here. Let's knock out our final break of the show. Jimmy's here for Otterlocks next.
AFR.
You know, whenever you try to go to a website and it's just crawling, or you get the little circle, you know, the thinking circle on your screen, or your phone isn't resetting, it's just so maddening. It's so maddening. And in the grand scheme of life, we're talking about seconds, right? But when you expect something instantaneously, like we do now with high-speed internet, you want it to work. Well, if you want reliability, if you want lightning fast speeds, you want local service, oh, by the way, and better pricing, then you want Rev Fiber. R-E-V, RevFiber.com, RevFiber.com, RevFiber.com. You can see where Rev has laid fiber already for your home, for your business, and where they're going as well, and why it might benefit you. It certainly will benefit you to switch financially to get better service from Rev Fiber, better coverage, lightning fast speeds for less money. RevFiber.com. Man, I had a great conversation today with Big Jake over at River Parish Contractors. What an awesome dude, man. I'm going to tell you, if you are looking for work, and we tell you all the time, if it's welders or crane operators or pipe fitters or pipe cutters, you want to work in the fab shop, River Parish Contractors needs to talk to you. And Big Jake was telling me, man, I always get the same three questions. People want to know, what's the rate? What's the wage? What are the hours? Can you make overtime? And then, where am I working? Have that. Big Jake's got the answers lined up for you already, but the bottom line is, you want to work, you got a great attitude, you want to work at a place with great culture, great people that's local, where you can work as much overtime as you want, and they got so much work lined up, they're going to keep you busy, and you want to be home with your family every night, you want River Parish Contractors. So call Big Jake, rpcontractors.com, rpcontractors.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
Down the stretch we come. Final segment here on a Thursday edition of AFR presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. One thing left to do. Let's find out what we're betting on tonight. It's time for Otter Locks.
Otter Locks.
All right, time to win some money.
Presented by Total Maintenance AC Repair. Same-day service means you will never sleep hot. 480-1000. We are Total Maintenance.
I think it's safe to say that I won the bet.
Yo, Otter, what up?
Well, didn't want to mouth it, but, man, we were really, really close to another 5-0. I mean, start off 9-1, put out 2 winners on the Daily Show yesterday afternoon, 11-1. The first 2 are in last night, 13-1. We're winning by 2 in the 10th inning. Lose that on a walk-off grand slam. And 1 out away from Milwaukee winning. They lose with a 3-out homer. And, of course, the Pistons brother. So, you talk about it turns quickly.
It can.
Anyway.
It can. But we're still way ahead, man. Having a hell of a week,
Way
man.
ahead. Hell of a week. Let's get right to it because I got to add on from what I gave Hunt earlier. Red Sox and Suarez, man, has not given up a run. His last 2 starts, like them at home against Luzardo. It's a soft number. Down to minus 118 currently at DraftKings and pretty much everywhere out there. Well, I like that. That's the only one. Couldn't really find a whole lot besides that in Major League Baseball. The White Sox, I like to play them, but that they don't have one of their better pitchers throwing. Too steep of a price for Atlanta and Los Angeles. So we go to the NHL, and Colucci's got a non-committal today. He's kind of a Canadians fan, so he did that, but. Randy McKay did give out yesterday. He gave out the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. So they're basically even money tonight. They're down 3-2. All 3 losses have been really, really close losses to the Vegas Golden Knights. So I would take Anaheim to try and force a Game 7 with that one tonight. And then we're going to add on for college baseball. I'm going to go out to Big Ten country, the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
Eugene, Oregon. So Oregon is a top 20 RPI team. USC is a top 10 RPI. So USC's resume is better. But Oregon is 10-2 in Big Ten home games. USC is 4-8 in Big Ten road games. And their plus price, plus about 25 or 30. We'll go with the Ducks at home plus the price.
Oregon right now, DraftKings plus $1.24. So like the Ducks at home, quack, quack. They're up in Eugene. All right, so the Red Sox on the money line, the Anaheim Ducks on the ice on the money line, and quack, quack, the Oregon Ducks. We like the Anaheim Ducks and the Oregon Ducks tonight. How about the Mighty Ducks?
And don't forget, when they've got those day games, we're putting them out. Who's our favorite over team?
The Nationals.
Over again. So, I mean, the Braves, Braves' best record in baseball. They're the highest scoring team in baseball. A whole lot of people realize that the Washington Nationals are the 2nd highest scoring team in baseball. We keep riding them until they kind of show us that not to back day over. So bad relief pitching too. I mean, they came in and Cincinnati teed off. Cincinnati had the over by themselves today. By the way, Chase Burns, his last 6 starts for Cincinnati, the kid out of Tennessee and Wake Forest, less out of 1 ERA his last 6 starts. So. He's kind of through in his. That's real good.
Hey, before you go, whenever the schedule release comes out, is there anything to keep an eye on that's going to be worth maybe trying to get some action on early?
Coming off of buys, we'll review this next week with Randy McKay, and he'll have and you're not going to see a whole lot of it, but he looks at teams coming off a bye versus team with like their 3rd straight divisional game. And, of course, back-to-back European trips like Jacksonville, the 2nd game, their clock is more conditioned. That's one of them. But I defer to Randy.
Okay.
I mean, he's very, very good at it, and he will have spots as soon as next week on that schedule that he's circling.
All right. Rafino's tomorrow for I got a week Friday edition of Live at Lunch with Otter and Hanny. Thank you, Otter.
Big happy graduation. Yes, there'll be a lot of people celebrating tomorrow at Rafino's.
It'll be packed. All right, man. Have a great one. Thank you. We appreciate it. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. Thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. 100 acres in St. Francisville, 20 acres in Covington. You want to build your family's dream home? Have that rural lifestyle? First South Farm Credit can help make it happen. Maybe, tax season in the rearview mirror. You're talking with your CPA. Owning recreational timberland, you're going to incur expenses. Maybe it's a great tax benefit. Have a conversation with your CPA to see if that's something maybe you want to look into doing. Maybe it's that hunting property, that recreational property in Mississippi or in Texas, wherever it is in the lower 48. Thinking of buying land. You're with a local land lender at First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthLand.com. FirstSouthLand.com. Well, Jay Johnson said yesterday that Chris Stanfield was really sore after just a couple of at-bats, not feeling great. Really wondering if Stanfield was going to be able to bounce back. And Stanfield starting in left field. Naturally, right? So Lockenmeyer is going to get the ball for LSU. The lineup's posted. So they'll go Braun, Cerna, Curiel, Aaron Beatty, Milam, Pearson at third, Ruckert, Patrick, and then Stanfield in left, batting ninth. That's how they'll line it up. Danny Lockenmeyer will get the ball for the Tigers tonight. He'll make the start. We know that it'll be Marcos Paz in Game 2 and Zach Cowan in Game 3. So if we see Kason Evans, it'll be in a relief role at some point this weekend. We'll see how that goes. But very clearly, they're saving William Schmidt for Tuesday in the opener at the SEC tournament. So Tigers and Gators, about 35 minutes away from first pitch. You'll hear it over on Eagle 98.1. Of course, we'll be back on Friday to recap all of it, and we'll have the full NFL schedule release, so we'll talk about it then. Have a great night. See you tomorrow at 3.
AFR.
As we get on down the road, remind you about Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. With locations all over South Louisiana, you're never far from a Shawbills location, so get on by and get you some tires. Look, nobody wants to buy tires. It's not a fun purchase. Again, you know what's fun? For me, going to buy new sneakers. That's fun. Buying a new car? Fun purchase. Paying for a vacation? Fun purchase. Tires? Not a fun purchase, but an essential purchase. Literally, your car will not go without tires. It's bad. You ever try to drive a car without tires? Not a good idea. So you want the best tires on the road because it's going to keep you and your family safe. You want the best tires on the road at the cheapest price possible? That's Shawbills. Not only will they sell you name brand tires at wholesale prices, they treat you like family so you keep coming back for oil changes and tire rotations and everything you need for your vehicle. Shawbills, we keep you rolling.